Yeah, so I'm back. So he so this morning when I told him that Mr. Darrell, like what Mr. Michael said, what do you need? Is there anything else that you need? And he said, well, because I'm gonna be gone for now. And I said, well, Mr. Darrell says that I need more toilet paper so I can put 10 of each in each, men's bathroom. And then he's like, then Mr. Michael, he got smart ass and got an attitude and was like, well, let me spell it out for you. He's like, let me spell it out for you. There is no more toilet paper. I said, well, why you didn't say that? That's all you could have said earlier. And because Mr. Michael, he tried it earlier. He said, well, just work with what you have and worry about the rest later, you know. And I said, well, he said, well, don't worry about it. He said, he specifically said, don't worry about what Darrell says. He said, don't worry about what Darrell said when I was trying to tell him earlier. Now, when Mr. Darrell comes back on Friday, he might be like, well, Candy, why you didn't replace the toilet paper like I told you on? And if I tell him, well, Mr. Michael said this, he might be like, well, what did I tell you? So it's like, it's a big battle between, well, if Mr. Darrell says something, then like, well, Mr. Michael trained me this way. Or if Mr. Michael say, well, do this way, I'm like, well, Mr. Darrell says to do it this way. So, since Mr. Darrell is like um, you know, the main supervisor, the permanent supervisor, and Michael is just a substitute or a fill-in, I guess I would go along with what Mr. Darrell says, rather than Michael. And then, I don't respect narcissistic abusers and perps. So I believe that Mr. Michael is a gang stalking perp. He's a perp, a narcissist, a highly narcissistic perp, and he's Jamaican. He's a light skinned Jamaican, and Mr. Michael, he's the type, he don't respect your boundaries. If you don't want to be touched, he'll touch you anyway. He'll put his hands on you anyway, like as if you don't have a choice. So I already told him, I don't like people touching me. I don't like people putting their hands on me. And then the other day, on Friday, Mr. Michael acted like he thought he had the authority to dictate that I'm not allowed, that I'm not supposed, that he don't want me to wear my earbuds that I wear, trying to say that, cause when I need to tell you something that's work related. Well, you unnecessarily constantly in everybody's faces 24/7, all day, every day, just constantly in their faces, just telling them shit. Mr. Darrell, he just let us work and mind, and everybody else, they let us mind, they mind their business and just let us do our work. But he's constantly, all in your face, like, and so one time when I don't think it was my first day, I think it was like the third day or the last day, he's like, well, I'm not trying to micromanage you or anything, but you need to do this, or this is not clean enough, or this or that, whatever. And so then, he had, but I'm sorry, I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, forgive me, I'm sleep deprived. So he, this morning, when he, I'm nervous. This morning he had, when he told me, don't worry about what Darrell says, when I said that Mr. Darrell needed for me to stack up 10 rolls of extra toilet paper, to stash on the safe side. And first he said, don't worry about what Darrell says. And then later on he said, anything you need. And I told him, Mr. Darrell says I need, more toilet paper to stack in the men's room. And he said, well, let me spell it out for you. There is no more toilet paper. I said, well, why you didn't, like, with an attitude? And I said, well, why didn't you, that's all you had to say earlier. Well, I don't have time to be telling you to, and this and that, whatever, saying, I don't have time to be telling you everything and this and that. So that's why I don't clean the handicap rails in the bathroom, because he tried to tell me that I should clean the handicap bathrooms like the first week when he trained me. And I said, well, you didn't tell me before that I needed to clean the handicap rails. Well, he's like, well, that's common sense. Nobody should have to tell you. And the fake foster mom and the fake foster family, they were narcissistic and abusive, and be like, nobody should have to tell you this and that. Like, he said the same thing. Like, when I told him, I asked him, well, why didn't you tell me that there was no more toilet paper? And he said earlier, and he said, nobody should have to tell you. I shouldn't have to tell you, whatever. And so then he went to complaining to Mr. Doug about how nobody wanted to listen to him or do what he said or nothing. And then I don't know what happened earlier before I got on shift. And then like when I went to clean the back women's bathroom, one of the back women's bathrooms, and I heard the three men, complaining about and gossiping, is discussing and complaining about Mr. Michael and stuff. I didn't hear everything, but I heard them complaining. And Michael was saying that they didn't want anybody to supervise them, or they didn't want anybody to tell them what to do and stuff like that. So it's like, that's crazy, because it seemed like, remember when I told y'all the perp Roderick, he tried to tell me what to do, but he don't like the supervisors telling him what to do, but yet he's a co-worker. So you a co-worker and you're not the supervisor, but then you try to tell me what to do, but then you don't like to be, you complain when when the actual bosses tell you what to do. But I mean, if Mr. Michael's, the supervisor on duty, I mean, I'll do what needs to be done, but I don't need any lectures. Just like y'all narcissistic abusers say that y'all don't want to hear me complaining, I don't want to hear y'all lectures either. I don't want to hear y'all lectures, and I don't want to hear y'all nitpicking and being overcritical. Being overcritical and nitpicking and stuff like that. So. I mean, I don't want to hear y'all nitpicking and being overly critical. So, it's like, but then I have to hear their lectures, and when they want to nitpick and be overcritical, that's complaining. So I mean, that wasn't even an issue. That's all the fact that you make simple things more difficult, when all you had to say earlier was, oh, well, that's all the toilet paper we have, or we don't have no more. And I'm like, well, that can't be, because if Mr. Darrow said that they had another shipment this past Wednesday, a few days ago, if there was a new shipment, and I saw some new stuff. So Mr. Darrow said that there was a shipment of everything coming in. So I think Mr. Michael was just too lazy and didn't want to go back and go get more toilet paper, So, I don't know, and it's like when Mr. Darrow, when Mr. Michael got an attitude with me this morning, I said, good, I'm glad, and he was about to leave, and I said, well, good, I'm glad you're gone. But I didn't realize that he had an issue with the other men too, when he was telling one of his big bosses about, how nobody wants to. It's not that we don't want to be told what to do, but we don't want to be, talked to like we're stupid and like we lack intelligence. Like I had that issue with Roderick, because I didn't want him to, trying to talk to me like I'm stupid, And it's like, well, you don't like people doing that same thing to you, and they're the bosses, So I need to elaborate and talk more about all this, but I got to get back to work, and I got to use the bathroom. So, and I don't want to get in no trouble. So I'll be back later.